Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of a new podcast that I have titled, probably kind of badly, A Cup of Nepenthe. So, this podcast is a self-quarantine positivity podcast, because everyone is basically in the same situation right now, where we are not supposed to go outside, and it's kind of hard for some people, so I wanted to give a little bit of something to whoever wants it and whoever needs it, so that they have a little positive podcast once a week until hopefully everything is better.
I'll be honest, when I saw the copy and I saw the words quarantine and positivity in the same sentence, I wasn't sure I was going to be up for it, but now that you've told me the actual premise, I'm feeling much better.
I mean, and this is the benefit of this is a show that is destined to not have to just fall off the face of the earth. Like if there's not another episode, either everything's gone real bad, or everything's fine again.
Everything's fine. Yeah. So the aim is to have at least one of these a week where we just talk about stuff, give you some places to go to cheer yourself up, and I don't know, do a podcast, I guess.
Yeah.
Today, I am joined by Kinross.
Hello.
And Cam. I guess I should say Croverload if I'm saying Kinross, but I'm just going to say Cam.
That's fine.
Well, I mean,
if you would like to introduce yourselves.
Well, I was going to say that this is because it's the weird thing of my handle works as a name, and that is why you call me that. No one actually goes around calling Cam Croverload. Unless you would rather, would you rather that I was like, "Hey, Croverload."
I just changed my PSN, like, because you have to put your full name for your PlayStation Network ID. I just changed that to my first name being Crover and my second name being Load. And I never want anyone to call me that ever.
Mr. Load.
I only did it because obviously I've been streaming more recently.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's not. Why is it a thing? I don't understand. Sony, sort yourselves out.
I mean, yeah, because it shows to you, but you can say, actually, I don't want anyone to see this version of my name, but it is the one that is on your main screen. It's
and the settings to kind of make that happen are so obtuse as well.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm the same guy from those other shows that we do sometimes.
Let's just assume that no one listens to Permadeath.
Oh, okay. Still not good at them.
You are a man.
I am a man. Last I checked. Sometimes I do things other than wake up and work.
Cool.
I don't know. How do you...
Cam, how about you go for an introduction?
Yeah, so my name is Cam. I'm known, as mentioned before, I'm known in the circles as Croverload on Twitter and Twitch, which are probably the most relevant places that you'll find me. I'm in quite a fortunate position in that whilst in quarantine, I am free to work from home, which is a luxury that I know not a lot of people have. But as well as that, I also am quite a big Dungeons and Dragons guy, which has only been kind of galvanized as a result of all of this. I stream video games and Dungeons and Dragons on Twitch. There we go. Haven't quite woken up yet. And yeah, so that's basically what I do. I've been a content creator on and off for many years. But yeah, I do things, and I'm just a kind of all-around hobbyist.
Man, love a good hobbyist.
That is
a good hobby.
That's a much better introduction.
Do you want to try again?
I've been thinking about it.
Because even thinking of the things that Cam said, I don't have anything to add. I don't really do anything on the regular. Well,
Kinross is on another podcast called the Permadeath Podcast that I also co-host. Maybe stuff coming on that soon. Who knows? Probably not, but who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, the first thing on our docket for today is just a general question to you guys. How are you? How are you coping? because this time is stressful for some people, but other people are thriving. So I just want to see how how you're doing with being, cooped up, I suppose. I'll go for Cam first.
I was going to say, you're probably going to need to lead this a little bit. I'm all right. Like one of the things that kind of comes up a lot when I talk to people, particularly at my job, is I kind of have a rep at work for being the guy that sort of sits in the corner, doesn't really talk to anyone, and I think a lot of people don't really know how to approach me as a result. I'm kind of the loner guy, bit nerdy, but nobody dislikes me or anything like that. It's just they're unsure, and that's just because I'm an awkward guy. But I think that's because a lot of my relationship building and a lot of the connections that I have been cultivated through many, many years of being just online. And as a result of that, I've probably adjusted better to this than a lot of other people that are around our age group who maybe didn't have that during their like early and mid childhood going into teenage years. So when people ask me, I'm like, yeah, so I've adjusted quite well because I don't go out a whole lot anyway. However, in saying that, the lack of the option to go outside. Like, I know we can go outside once a day for our government sanctioned exercise, but besides that, not having the flexibility to go outside when I want and do what I want is quite stressful. I think after this is we're on week 4 now, approaching week 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's getting tough because like one of the things for me is because I don't see people regularly outside of work, I pin a lot of value on hopping on a train and going to see yourselves, my friends in Birmingham. I place a lot of value in that stuff because I don't get to do it very often. And I need to kind of get a lot of my physical interaction with friends time in at that point, and that's not an option right now.
I was thinking the other day, the last maybe a week or so before we went into lockdown, I was in Manchester because I went to go and visit you and Emily, and I was like, it's a good job that everything fell into place where I could do, like, the weekend before that I was in Birmingham, I got my phone repaired. In that, week before I went to Birmingham, I went and got my hair done, and then I went to Manchester and hung out with you guys for the weekend, and I was just thinking, it was such a good job that I did all of that, because I'm like I miss you all, but it's also not been that long, and I feel like that has charged me a little bit. I mean, there's a reason stay positive
that people are, making the joke of 2020 is already 4 years long. Because even though it has only been 3.5 weeks at this point, it feels like bloody forever, even though for all of us, nothing has overly changed in terms of how we live our lives. It is just like suddenly options are gone and there's just more restrictions, I guess, on what we're able to do, and thus it feels a lot longer.
Yeah, like from my point of view, the only big thing hanging above my head, particularly, is I'm in like I mentioned before, I'm in a very lucky position where I can work from home. My and the place that I work for is very stable, and because everyone can operate from home, there's basically been very little impact on my job. So job security for me, which I know is a big thing for a lot of people at the moment, is fine. However, my lovely wife, Emily, she works for Debenhams, and obviously there's been a lot going around on the news at the moment about what's going on with them.
Yeah.
So she's on the government furlough at the moment. But of course, that is still until I see, or until she sees, should I say, the first kind of payment from that go in, and we know, right, okay, we're all good. there's that big question mark hanging above our heads. And of course, with that being coupled on top of the fact that it's Debenhams and they've recently declared that they're going into administration, while that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go out of business, it obviously a lot of people associate it with that. So little bit scary. And if it did, again, like, I'm quite lucky, it wouldn't affect us too badly. But what it would mean is that when all the restrictions are lifted, we would be a bit up a creek.
Yeah.
In terms of being able to do the things that we like to be able to do.
Yeah. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything works out well.
Yeah, and like I say, despite that, we're doing okay. It's just the kind of stir craziness thing is slowly kicking in. But you're going to get that.
Yeah.
How about you, Kinross?
So much like Mr. Load.
Don't.
I'm gonna be killed later on. I already spent like 99% of my time at home. My social life is pretty much entirely online. So that aspect hasn't been too bad. The problem that I have is that I am not able to work from home. And so whilst I am on like reduced rota, I am having to go out, and it's a frustrating experience to basically see the country sort of I know all these people are like staying at home and doing this, that, and the other, and to see how many people aren't following that instruction or just being real weird about it. I would honestly be enjoying this lockdown a lot more if I didn't have to leave the house.
Yeah.
And obviously it fiddles with things like food shops and whatnot, because there are no delivery slots unless you're in dire need or very lucky. So basically all my food shopping is done from a very tiny little Tesco that just about holds enough stock for all the people who also live in the area around work. But no, otherwise it's pretty much business as normal, which is nice to have some sort of semblance of normal.
Yeah. I can understand that to quite a large degree, I think, because I'm in a very similar situation where I before spent a lot of time inside. I don't, live close to any of my friends, so it's more of an event when I see them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll see them once every couple months or whatever.
Yeah.
So I spend a lot of time inside anyway. I work from home with reselling, which has been a bit more difficult because I don't like leaving the house because I'm asthmatic and I'm afraid, which means I can't go to the post office without making a plan of action and making sure that I have everything that I need to stay as safe as possible while I'm out, because we've had a fair amount of local cases now. So I think the only time that I ever feel anxious about something is when I know I have to go out. When you think, I've got to get food, and I've seen the queues for the supermarket.
Yeah. I have no choice
that scares
but to go.
me.
I'm curious to see how many people are going to end up developing an element of agoraphobia or claustrophobia as a result of this. They're either going to hate going outside anymore, or they're going to hate being inside.
Yeah.
And I think that this is just going to be a very interesting, optimistic few weeks.
Yeah.
Honestly, just to butt in there, I honestly quite like the queues for the supermarket. Maybe that's just my British blood.
Is it because everyone's staying so far apart, so
It's more. I think it's more the general thing of when you obviously have to wait for a while to get in, but I would gladly take that in exchange for the supermarket not being anywhere near as crowded when you go in.
That's true.
Like, it's a lot. Once you're in, it's a lot easier to be in and out and leave. And I guess one of the fascinating things for me, kind of observing everything that's going on and how people are reacting to it from like a systematic standpoint, is stuff like that. It's like, would it be overall more efficient to have a system like that, and would it be sustainable knowing how impatient people can be? But I guess from my mindset is like, you probably net gain time from just waiting in a queue for 10 minutes.
I think that, I mean, I have not gone into a supermarket. The last time I went to a supermarket was that first weekend when suddenly everyone was panic buying toilet paper. And I basically said I'm going to avoid it at that point, because even then it was a miserable experience. Either trying to find the stuff that you want, or to just move around. The place was rammed with people with trolleys of stuff. I was just like, you know what, I can't be arsed with this. But I do walk past an Aldi, an M&S, and a Sainsbury's for getting from the bus to work. And every time I see those queues, I'm like, I don't want to wait around, because I don't trust the people that I'm standing around, because most of them don't understand what 2 meters is. And I don't want to queue for 15, 20 minutes to then go into a shop and find that there's nothing that I actually want. I would rather go to a smaller place where I'm in and out, and if I don't get what I want, no biggie. I only lost like 5 minutes.
That's fair enough. I suppose the point that I'm trying to make is more, it's interesting to see how people are responding to it. And because like the other thing is, like, this system right now, we're extremely lucky that the weather is like supports it. If this had happened in like midwinter, no chance. People would not queue outside. I wouldn't queue outside. So but I guess the point that I'm making is, once everything's passed, whenever that may be, and things are lifted and things kind of go back to some state of normalcy, it would be nice, if not maybe a little optimistic, to see what things are kept.
You know what I hope is kept?
Hand washing?
Hand washing. Because apparently no one did that before. Based on the last month or so. It's like, suddenly everyone's buying all the soap. They're like, I need soap to wash my hands. People are
I remember when I went into Morrison's, that first, like, when I went to initially get supplies, like, they're long gone now, but I went to get, like, my week's worth of shopping, and I was like, you know what I need? I need to replenish the soap, because we have 1 bar left for both the kitchen and the bathroom, so I need to buy another bar of soap. Did they have any? Did they hell? Like... it was just like, all of a sudden people are like, oh my god, soap will save me.
I mean, there's probably a part of it that some people were just like overbuying it, either for hoarding reasons or reselling or whatever, and maybe people are washing their hands as much as they always have been. They're just like hoarding more. But it definitely felt like people didn't understand that hand washing was a thing that you should do.
I think one of the reasons for that, though, is that, and I think this kind of comes down to teaching, because I don't know about you two's experience in school, but they don't teach, or I don't know what it's like now, but when I was in school, they didn't teach you like basic life skills.
No.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think there's an assumption there that the parents are going to, but I think one of the things is that I think part of the reason why people maybe didn't take as much care and attention into washing their hands is because they perhaps don't understand why it's important and how it works. Because I'll be honest, I watched a video not too long ago explaining how soap kills bacteria, and I didn't know any of that, and now I'm like, oh, now that I know that soap needs time to work, I'm suddenly finding myself washing my hands for much longer.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I've changed, is I used to just be like, right, I'm gonna wash my hands. Quick, like,
Yeah.
5-second rub of the soap, under the water, right, done. When you should be singing at least 2 rounds of Happy Birthday to yourself.
But for anyone who doesn't know, the reason why it's important is because bacteria, the genetic material that causes viruses and things like that is protected by a layer of fat, and water just kind of washes off that. It's a natural thing that it's developed to protect itself against things like that. It's why they're so resilient. And soap, like, one thing that is common knowledge is soap is acidic. And the reason why it's acidic is because it basically burns away that layer of fat, so you can actually destroy the actual virus bit. And that's why you need to wash your hands for about 20 seconds, because that's the amount of time it takes to strip away that layer of fat. And
right.
Yeah, and I watched that and I was like, oh wow, okay, I know a thing that I didn't know
I basically
before.
feel like I've never washed my hands before.
Well, exactly, and I think that's the thing, like, if people don't understand why they're doing something, they're not going to do it.
I think that, because obviously there's a lot of instructional videos and things coming out, and I think that the most informative one to me, I don't know if you've seen it, is it's similar to the why sunscreen is good for your face video, where it's like, hey, here is all the UV light is blocking, and it's basically showing you why the hand wash technique of like in between the fingers, blah 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 blah, is the way that it is, so that you actually see how much of the hand is covered by soap and therefore being cleaned by a normal person, and then by things like doctors and the like, when they're actually scrubbing literally every inch, and you're like, oh, that's why it's the way that it is. Because I do tend to forget about the back of the hand. And in relation,
is the big one as well.
Thumbs, I sort of do the thumbs. It's also the under the fingernails. I forget sometimes. But to go back to our kids being taught it, from my time as working in schools, they ain't. I was working with kids from like foundation, reception, kindergarten, whatever you want to call it, through till year 6, and at no point was how to wash your hands a thing. And now that I think about it, I think I learnt from mum and dad, because they were working in like the medical profession, and they're like, this is how you actually wash your hands. So
I think I was taught, you should wash your hands after,
everything,
using the bathroom before you handle food or whatever. But I don't, we didn't know that you needed to, spend 20 seconds with the soap, because that's not, I don't think the reason that soap works is particularly common knowledge. People are just like learning it quite recently.
It's just clean, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think that part of the 20-second thing is that it was probably something that I knew at one point, but it falls into the you should chew your food 30 times before you swallow it. It's like, all right,
yeah, maybe,
yes, but am I going to chew this bit of beans on toast for 30 seconds? No, that's a waste. So, I get it.
Yeah. But that leads into a kind of a deeper opinion that I have about things like, should kids be taught more about politics and stuff like that? And I think so. But that's an entirely different conversation. I think the point that I'm making is just that it's good that this information is getting out there and getting to people now, but
will it last?
Yeah, will it last? And people forget stuff as well. So like maybe even people that were taught the importance of washing your hands when you're a kid, that knowledge and that kind of vigilance erodes over time.
Yeah.
It'll be curious to see what actually sticks around from this period of time to when we go back to normal. Like, I don't think things are going to be exactly as they were before.
Well, and I hope not, because I'm hoping personally that this is a wake-up call for a lot of people in power, being like, if we don't do something, this is going to happen again, and it will happen again.
I mean, it seems to happen every so often. It's just this one seems to be the biggest one. We've had swine flu, and we've had bird flu, and we've had foot and mouth disease, and this one seems to be the biggest one.
I think it's got something to do with, if I remember correctly, I may be wrong, but it's to do with how easily transferred COVID-19 is. Whereas like bird flu and swine flu, because it was something that hopped from one species to another, while it was very dangerous, it was more difficult to transfer it from human to human. It was possible, but it was nowhere near as easily spread. One thing, just going back to Kinross, you mentioned the video about washing hands and how to do it effectively. One other thing that I did see that was interesting, I think it was the state of Ohio, I could be wrong, but it was definitely like an American like state branch, produced a video that I saw on Twitter recently, I think it was yesterday, illustrating the effectiveness of social distancing.
Is it the ping pong ball?
Yes. And it was,
I love that.
It was awesome. Like the way that it did it was basically they had loads of mouse traps, all kind of tightly packed into an area, and then they dropped one ping pong ball in the center. So obviously what happened was the ping pong ball hit the middle one, that one like pinged and flew off, and it showed the kind of the effect of like those mouse traps land on other mouse traps, and they all go off, and kind of the ripple effect of that, and how it basically settled them all off. And then it showed another clip where they were spread apart by a few inches or whatever, and they throw the ping pong ball in again, and it didn't trigger any of them because it just passed through the gaps. And I thought that was a really good way of showing in simple terms, like, this is why it works.
Yeah.
I think
I just want to like reiterate to people who are like having a hard time with this social distancing thing that if you are staying at home, and this doesn't apply to people who, like, work. If you have to leave the house to go to work, that's fine. But if you are staying at home and struggling with it, you are still doing the right thing, even if it's hard. Because, like, I just cannot stress
don't stress
how important it is to me, personally, to see that people are doing it, because it means that people care about others who don't have, strong immune systems and have conditions like COPD and whatever. Like, I don't know, there's just something really comforting and nice about that, and if you are doing that, thank you.
If you're not,
keep doing it.
Do it.
And I think this borders on something that you wanted to talk about as well, Ebby, which is there are going to be some people that are sat at home that are maybe on furlough, who don't have a lot to do, they can't go outside, and there's going to be this external pressure to, maybe even internal, like pressure to feel like you have to do something productive with your time. And
so
go on.
I wanted to have like one-word topics for these episodes, and the first one is goals, and what should you be doing with your time? What does having a goal mean? And oh my god, I have to do NaNoWriMo now that I'm in isolation, and
it's not November.
Yeah, we just sort of,
NaQuaRimo.
NaQuaRimo. Hashtag that. Yeah, the main thing that we wanted to talk about is if we have goals, what we think is a good goal to have, or maybe perhaps a bit detrimental to you, or, just that whole topic around making the most of your time while still doing the right thing and social distancing. So Cam came up with a good point when we were talking about this episode prior to recording it. When I said that I thought goals would be a good first topic. So if you wanted to explain what your opinion was on
hashtag goals.
Hashtag goals.
Yeah, so we kind of touched on it just now, but there's everyone's very scared. Everyone's very stressed out because of these circumstances that we find ourselves thrust into, and as a result, I guess the point is, like, if you have something that you want to do with this time that you find yourself with, great, go for it, but be sensible and don't feel like you have to. As we were saying before, just staying in your home and practicing social distancing and taking some time to just relax and try to stay calm is already achieving something. You're already protecting the people around you. So don't feel like you're being lazy or being defeated or anything like that. Don't put pressure on yourself, because it kills any kind of creative or motivational drive instantly. The feeling of guilt, and it's something that, because Emily and I are both very creative people, and we've both individually been trapped in the guilt cycle, which is you sit there feeling like I really should be doing something, and because you're so busy using your mental assets thinking about how guilty you feel about not doing the thing, you can't find the energy to do the thing. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. And I worry that a lot of people are going to... I mean, you see it on social media and stuff all the time, like all of these Facebook posts and whatever saying, like, if you're not doing something with this time, you're wasting a gift. And it's like, this isn't a gift, it's a pandemic. Chill out. You know, some people are struggling to cope with that. Let them just exist so that they can continue to exist afterwards.
Yeah, I think that's something that, I mean, I struggle with it in general anyway. Like, when I have free time that I should be trying to do something, either to progress whatever target I have at the time, or to better myself in one way or another. And I've been struggling to do that when I'm regularly working and doing all of the normal life stuff. So the moment that I do have like reduced hours or whatever, I'm like, man, now's the time. You ain't doing it. What the hell is wrong with you? And half of the fight is trying to get myself out of that rut, and hopefully by the end of this I'll have managed it.
I guess my thing is, like, if you have a goal, you have to be willing to push yourself a little bit, because that's what a goal is ultimately. It's a challenge, but you have to also be realistic. And whatever your goal is, it needs to be simple and it needs to be achievable. And I don't think, you know, like, I'm gonna use this time to master a new skill isn't reasonable or achievable. I'm gonna learn to play the piano in 3 weeks. No, you're not.
No.
What you're gonna do is you're gonna get to that end of that three weeks and then feel like crap because you've not mastered the piano. Maybe instead say, I'm gonna have a go.
Yeah. I think I set myself some goals for this period of time, just so that when it gets to the point where we can go outside and live normal lives again, I'm in a pretty good position to just push on with the goals that I set out for myself at the beginning of the year. Because I know that some of those goals are just not going to be achievable because the world is shut down, which is fine. I'm not going to beat myself up about not being able to do things because of the situation.
Yeah.
But the goals that I've set for myself are small. They're not like, I must write an entire thesis on why Utano Prince Summer is a
awful show.
Deep look into social structure, and you know.
Yeah.
The goals that I've set for myself are like, I really want to read the second book in the Witcher series. You know, I'd like to finish that because I'm enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make my living space a little bit less cluttered. So maybe just, like, sort some clothes out that I can donate when the pandemic is over, and some other stuff. Streaming is another one for me. Like, I'm finding streaming helpful, and I'm finding that people are saying it's helpful to them as well to have just background noise and another person there, which is great. and I want to make candles. Like, I want to get into candle making again. So, like, they are small and achievable goals that I can do. But, like, at the end of the day, if they don't get done and then suddenly we're out of quarantine, I'm not going to be like, oh, what a waste of time that was. I'm just going to be like, okay, well, I didn't achieve it, but, you know, I can still do them.
And I think the important thing to take away from that there, from what you've said, is they were things that you were planning to do anyway. And I think that is important. So, like, for me personally, the things that I've set out to do is similar to you in the sense of I'm just kind of doubling down on things that I was already doing and already enjoying. So, like, similar to you, streaming is one of those things. Like, Emily and I stream once a week. So I've moved that up to 3 times a week and trying to get into a rhythm of that. And then the other thing is just, like I said, like I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for just over a year now and kind of getting to grips with how to run those games and how to play them. So I'm just dedicating a little bit more time each day to reading articles about it, reading the books that I've bought, and just kind of experimenting and absorbing new things. It could be as simple as, is there a video game sitting on your shelf that you've been meaning to play for ages and you've never got round to it? Maybe now's the time to give it a go. You don't have to finish it. Just pop it in for a bit.
Yeah. Like, I think those are, like, simple goals that people are not going to beat themselves up about. And I think it's also fine to have a goal of just taking care of yourself. Like, treating yourself to a bubble bath, or doing a face mask if that's what you want to do, or busting out the fancy tea because you deserve it. But, like, I think taking care of yourself is also a good goal to have. And just, like, I don't know, just look after yourselves. Make that priority numero uno.
Mm-hmm. I think keeping in contact with others is an important one as well, because like all 3 of us have said kind of in unison, we're all more or less fine, apart from the struggles that everyone is facing with this, because the majority of our social structure hasn't been affected. We're doing very well, you know, despite the circumstances. However, you need to be careful not to assume that just because you're all right means that everyone else is.
Yeah.
So maybe consider the people in your life that may not be having such a good time, and just take some time out. So, I mean, for example, there's a member of my family who has been greatly affected by this, because she's not a technical person. She's never been a technical person, and it's been fascinating to see her like learn to use Skype and kind of have the situation thrust her into the 21st century. But it's funny just talking to her. You can just tell that it is affecting her, and you don't have to, but maybe just think, if you've got a few minutes to yourself and you are feeling like, oh, you know what, I'm doing okay right now. Maybe give someone a ring and just make sure they're okay.
Yeah. I think I need to make a better effort at doing that with my grandma in particular.
I think everybody does, honestly.
Because my grandma is a very outdoorsy person, and she is definitely over 70, so definitely has to stay inside. And I rang her like 3 weeks ago, and she was okay. And I think because she was okay at the time, I've been like really complacent about it. But I think I need to try and ring her more often and make sure that G&G are doing well.
Yeah, you can't assume just because you talk to someone once and they're fine that they're going to continue to be so. But again, it's the whole thing of don't put pressure on yourself. Just because you didn't do it, don't feel like you're an evil, like callous person just because you didn't ring your grandma one time. It's just another thing to maybe think about. And if you find yourself in a position where you're like, yeah, I can do this, then do it. But it's sometimes you've got to focus on yourself and your needs as a person. And ironically, earlier this week was one day where I've never needed to be more on my own than ever before, even before quarantine started, just because I had a really bad day at work.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like, a lot's changed, but as much as has changed, an equal amount has stayed the same.
I mean, it's if you've ever been on a plane, it's the make sure you put your own mask on before you try and help someone else.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a really good analogy.
Take care of yourself first, and
you'll be better equipped to take care of others.
Exactly. And if you are struggling to put that mask on, bother the person, quote unquote, next to you, and ask for just a little bit of help.
Well, that's the other thing as well, though, to bear in mind, is because I'm guilty of this as well. If I'm struggling, like, I have other issues besides just being stuck in quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
But when I struggle with those issues, I am the last person that will reach out to somebody else, and I know that I'm guilty of that. But unfortunately, it's one of those things where by the time you realize that you're in that kind of state, it's too late.
Yeah.
So there are situations like that where maybe there are people that you know that you go like, oh, they're not the kind of person that's going to reach out if they're in trouble. I'll just poke them and just be like, hey, are you okay? And just go from there.
I mean, and then even if they lie and say, yeah, I am,
they'll still appreciate it.
Yeah, at least they'll be like, hey, that guy actually asked if I was all right.
Yeah. But at the same time, don't let them deluge their problems onto you. You're there as a support, not as a therapist. Like, none of us, unless you happen to be,
unless you are a qualified therapist,
none of us are trained professionals.
Yeah.
You are not equipped, and you're going through your own stuff right now. But you're just there to be a kind of a shoulder sort of thing. We're all in this together at the end of the day. So, yeah, try not to go, because some people do this. Some people are really magnanimous, and they will kind of let everyone put all of their problems onto them and kind of be the sounding board for everything, and it drags people down.
Yes.
And it might not be, you as the person contributing your problem to the pile of problems. You won't realize it, because in a vacuum you're just kind of venting at somebody.
I think that's just good advice for general life as well, even outside of quarantine. Is just don't take on too many problems without dealing with your own.
Exactly. Yeah, you've got to be. And again, it's trying to make the best of a bad situation, because and this is the thing that needs to be stressed, is this is a bad situation. So don't feel bad if you can't reach out to everyone that you've ever spoken to since primary school. Don't feel bad if you can't master the piano in 3 weeks, like I mentioned before, because at the end of the day, we are working our way through a crisis. And if you're just staying at home doing nothing, you're still achieving something.
Yes.
I've forgotten the point that I was trying to make.
Don't beat yourself up for taking things easy.
Yeah, and by the end of this, it's like, as you said, I think this is a good opportunity, and I think not even an opportunity. I think it'll happen to people without them realizing. Is people are becoming more introspective with this time that they've got on their own at home, and maybe these things about like, just being more considerate of other people's feelings, and maybe thinking about the situations that other people are in besides themselves. I mean, hopefully that will kind of rise more to the surface.
Yeah. I would like it if we came out the other side of this with just people having a stronger sense of community as well.
If people can come out the other end of this slightly more compassionate than when they went in, that's a win. Yeah.
In some ways anyway, but one thing that I really look forward to every week now is the Thursday evening 8 p.m. Clap for Key Workers that some people are doing. Apparently neither of you have really heard it, but...
We heard one the other day. It might have been Thursday, actually.
Yeah.
It was... Yeah, it was definitely Thursday, because it was while I was streaming.
Was it?
Yeah. So I heard it outside, and I think I was being loud at the time. But yeah,
right.
So... Anyway.
But that's one of my favourite parts of the week now, because we all go out onto the front of the house, have a couple of minutes where we clap. One guy down the street has a trumpet, another guy has a bell, someone's got one firework to let off every week, and we all just, like, stand outside, clap for a bit, shout at each other and say, "Oh, you doing alright? Yeah, I'm doing fine, thanks, blah, blah." And then, at the end of that 2 minutes, we all start going back inside, and everyone is shouting, you know, stay safe to each other, and there's just something, like, really nice about that, considering I don't know a single person who lives around me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any of their names, I don't know anything about them, but every week we just get to see each other and say, "Oh, remember to stay safe," and there's just something really nice about that. And I think that will be something that I actually miss when this is over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really nice. And I do, like, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't do it. There's no particular reason why I don't.
I don't want to be the one guy in my entire area who does it. That's my problem. I don't want to be the first penguin to jump into the water. Yeah. Maybe if I started, suddenly everyone else will. But because no one is doing it, I don't want to be like, I'm just gonna clap outside now.
Yeah. I mean, for me, there are plenty of people in the block of apartments that I live in that do it, that I wouldn't feel like I stand out or anything like that. It's just not. I don't know. It's just not in my personality to do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel guilty, because I know in myself that I am extremely grateful for the people that risk themselves all the time to make sure that everybody's safe. And I am confident in the knowledge that I know that they know that I appreciate that. I feel like I don't need to make that gesture.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do appreciate and respect the people that do, for very similar reasons that you've given, Ebby, as well. Is that it's like, it kind of brings together this sense of community in a way. Yeah. Like, you're all coming together to support something that is very valuable to all of you.
Yeah, even if it's just for those 2 minutes a week.
Yeah,
it's just a nice thing that happens. And it's just, you know, you don't get to see people very often who are not the people that you live with or whatever. So it's just nice to see a different face.
Yeah. I guess the point that I was making is just, if you can't or you don't want to, don't feel bad. Like, it's a thing.
No, absolutely.
It's a thing that happens, and you're welcome to join in if you want to. If you don't join in, it doesn't mean you hate the NHS.
I don't think there's a single person who has, like, a heart in this country that doesn't appreciate the NHS and frontline workers right now, even, like, regardless of if they clap for key workers or not.
Yeah.
You know, I would like to think that going forward from this, maybe people will be more proactive in this. I don't want to politicize this too much, but, you know, writing to their MPs about nurses having to pay for parking and nurse pay rises and those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's something that I'm really hopeful for.
It's situations like these where there's a lot on the line, and maybe it kind of strikes a line underneath what is really important.
Yes. Because you don't really appreciate how essential people like supermarket workers are, or postmen, or Amazon delivery people. Like, you don't appreciate how essential they are to your life until the threat of them not being there is, you know, a bit too much.
I mean, what I do, I guess this is kind of my thing that I do instead of going out on my balcony and clapping on Thursday evenings, is when I go out to do a shop, I will make an effort to thank each and every person that does something for me while I'm out shopping. So from the person who lets me in to the supermarket, the person who's kind of monitoring the queue, to the person who oversees the self-serve checkouts at the end. I'll make sure to, even if I don't say thank you, if I can make eye contact with them, just smile at them and just let it be known that I appreciate the fact that they're there.
Yeah. I think that's a nice thing to do, is just make people feel like they're appreciated, because God knows they must be getting some awful customers in right now.
Yeah.
So just do what you can to be a positive force, I guess, when out and about.
Yeah, because you might be the only person that does that. You might be the only person that does that day.
Yeah.
And that's going to be that might be really important to that person. You may be the one person that helps them get into work the next day.
Yeah.
And you equally might not. It's probably more likely that you won't be, but that doesn't matter.
As long as you are just being a good person and the best person you can be to others.
Yeah. And maybe that kind of cycling back round to the topic of this podcast is maybe that in of itself is a good, healthy goal to have. Just maybe take some time to appreciate what you've got and let it be known that you do.
Yeah.
In whatever way you feel is appropriate.
Even if it's just a vague tweet saying, I'm super thankful for the guy at Morrison's that always says hello to me because I wear an Overwatch backpack sometimes.
Cheers, bro.
But I guess wrapping up, we have some, odd little bits and pieces that I wish to talk about. So, first things first, I actually meant to do this earlier, but I was going to explain the title of the podcast, which is A Cup of Nepenthe. So, some of you will know, Cam here is my DM for a regular Saturday game of Dungeons and Dragons.
It's pretty good.
In that game, I play a tiefling cleric who is called Nepenthe. And I was thinking about, before we started playing the game and before I, came up with this character, I knew that she was a tiefling, and I knew that she was going to be a cleric. And that was basically all I knew. So I started looking up virtue names and came across the word Nepenthe, and it just stuck with me, so I decided to call her that. And the reason that I think it's also appropriate for this podcast as well is that Nepenthe was actually it's described as a drink or a drug that is supposed to banish grief from a person's mind and banish sadness from a person's mind. Which, don't know if Nepenthe's done that with recent things that have happened in that game. However,
it's not
we all need a little bit of Nepenthe now and again. So
I think it worked kind of pulling away from her as a character and looking at it on a meta level. I think it kind of has a weird parallel with everything, because when we first started playing back then, you didn't really appreciate her as a character. I hope you don't mind me saying that, but you really didn't like her.
I didn't.
And it wasn't until maybe a couple of months ago where she was in real dire straits and you almost lost her, that you almost realized how much you cared about her.
Yep, pretty much.
That's quite. It's strangely. What's the word that I'm looking for? It's kind of a good allegory for things that are going on, maybe.
Yeah. Don't appreciate how good things are until you nearly lose them or don't have them anymore. That's perfect on so many levels. But I wanted to explain that because otherwise this podcast title makes not a lot of sense.
Side note, one thing you could do while in quarantine is just try out D&D. It's great.
You should.
I
look forward to every Saturday.
That is my mini goal.
Trying is enough, though. That's don't maybe just even have a look at it. You can find the basic rules for free online. Just have a look at it and maybe go, is this for me? If not, doesn't matter. If so, get a couple of people together and just be like, we're going to try out Dungeons and Dragons, because it's a great game.
Isn't there a free Blood Hunter one-on-one
Yeah, in fact, now that we mention it, just going off the rails onto this topic for a sec, now is a good time to do it because Wizards of the Coast are making a lot of their published content free right now to help out with this. And I don't know if it's still up by the time that this will be done, but have a look because the Lost Minds of Phandelver, which was the first published adventure that they ever released with the 5th edition starter set, is currently free. So go and get it.
Perfect, because this goes into the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is cool businesses doing cool things. So Wizards of the Coast giving out free content for you to, enjoy.
I think that there might be a page on D&D Beyond listing all of the currently free content. But I'm
there's
not
a lot of...
if there is a link to it, I will put it in the description of this video so that you can go and check that out if you are interested.
And if you do happen to get involved and try some stuff out, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask me. I'm sure Ebby won't mind either, even though she'll probably just forward them on to me.
Yep.
I am more than happy to talk about D&D with anyone.
Give us something to do.
Yeah, it's consumed my life, and I think now that this is all kicking off, even more so.
Yeah. It's a good hobby to have, especially if you already have an online game going.
Oh yeah, and
which we were very fortunate to already have one of those going before this happened.
If you're one of the many people that I'm aware of that have kind of tabletop games that you play with friends in real life, and you're thinking, oh crap, I can't do this right now because of that. There are plenty of resources online now from people who have the exact same problem as you into how to use online tools to solve that problem. One guy that I can recommend is Mike Shea, who runs slyflourish.com. He's recently done an article about how to play the game online, and that comes from the perspective of somebody who up until this point had played all of their games in person. So it's coming from the point of view of somebody who's new to playing online. Whereas for like me and Ebby, for example, that's pretty much our entire career.
Yeah. If you are interested in any of that stuff, I will try and leave links to everything.
I'll send you a link over for that article, Ebby, that you can pop in there if you want.
Perfect. So other cool businesses doing cool stuff. Funnily enough, going on from the Dungeons and Dragons stuff, there's a UK company called DNDice who are doing #Nat20beats19. Which is a little incentive thing that they've got going on where they are selling blind bags of dice sets for £9.95 each to raise money for personal protective equipment for the NHS. So if you like dice like I do and you want to do something good, the proceeds, I believe most of the proceeds from this go towards the NHS. And also, D&Dice are a super cool company anyway.
They are really good. They're super chill.
Now you can be a dice goblin and helpful.
See, this is me just enabling myself, going, but I don't need any more dice.
I don't need them, but I want to help. So
I want to help.
I've
so
got
I
to
guess
buy
I could
£300 worth of dice.
Yeah, like I'm just gonna buy some dice.
£300.
Pounds. So I will leave a link to that in the description as well if you are interested in getting a loot bag of a dice set. And that will buy masks and PPE and stuff for NHS workers, which is good.
Yep.
And the last company that I have for this episode is a company, again, another UK company that I've been a big fan of for many a year, called Gametee, who were, I believe they're out of stock now, but they were giving away their entire stock of bandanas to customers to use as makeshift masks based on advice from the CDC. I got mine today, actually, because I thought, you know what, perfect opportunity for me to buy some candles.
Yeah.
Last I saw, they were trying to get hold of more, so
yes.
Yeah.
The promotion isn't over. Keep an eye on it.
Temporarily on hold.
Yeah, and the little thing says, "This is not a substitute for medical PPE. Stay safe, adventurers. Love the Gametee girls." Which is sweet.
Bless them. They're really good. Like I only got introduced to them by you yourself last year at Games Expo, and their stuff is really good. It's just like good quality stuff, and I'm probably going to be making an order.
Good designs.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be making an order. I'm going to be making an order from them in a couple of weeks when payday rolls around.
They've got some good stuff on there. If you like video games, if you like Dungeons and Dragons, definitely check this one out.
If you like
they
boxes.
do all sorts of stuff, don't they? Yeah, boxes, t-shirts, they do dice and all
sand
sorts
timers.
Of stuff.
If you want a
they've got hourglasses now.
Fancy egg timer, made of wood, and obviously sand.
And obviously sand.
Well, yeah, you can't have. Can you imagine? I mean, I guess you could do it with sawdust, but it'd be unreliable.
Yeah, Gametee are a great company. And I think it's important as well that we try and support small businesses and local businesses as much as we can.
Yeah.
During and after this is all over. So, moving on to Ebby's top song recommendation.
Ebby's top sock. This
Ebby's
is my favourite
sock.
striped sock.
I have some song recommendations. Sorry, what?
I was going to say, on the topic of socks, Emily's waiting for some cat print socks to arrive today. She's
yes.
very excited. It's the little
Small
things. Yeah.
Are they like those? Are they like those thick grip socks that have like little paw prints on them, or is it just that it's covered in paw prints?
She wanted the beans on the bottom.
Oh my god!
They're not covered in them. They're like striped socks, but they have the beans printed on the bottom.
Oh, okay.
So they're kind of
that's cute.
Yeah, it's cute.
Emily's got a good sock game.
Anyway.
Song recommendations for something that might cheer you up if you are feeling a little bit sad, and I have a couple.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing is that I wanted to mention that Babymetal, the kawaii metal band from Japan, have released 2 of their concerts for free on YouTube temporarily. These are usually very, very expensive to purchase. So...
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. There's 2 Babymetal concerts that you can go and watch right now for free. It's temporary, so it's not going to be there forever. But if you wanted to,
it's got an intro from a skeleton man telling you to
stay home,
stay metal.
Stay home, stay metal. That's the
hashtag.
Amazing. Highly recommend, because Babymetal just smiles in some metal music. And on the complete opposite end of the scale...
The complete opposite to metal.
The complete opposite end of the scale, I want to recommend to you, the listener...
Oh, God. Yeah.
The god of scat, Scatman John.
Also god of Tetris.
So, this came about because Bill plays Tetris sometimes, and someone put in his song request, Scatman's World by Scatman John. And since then, everybody has become some level of obsessed with this man.
Like,
I don't know. Have you ever listened to Scatman John before, Cam?
I can't say that I have.
He's got such hits as Ski Bup 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 Bup.
I'm the Scatman. Skibidi Dip Yonda Dub Dub. Yonda Dub Dub.
Are these the actual titles? Because they are. Oh, I wish.
I think that the title of that one is I'm the Scatman brackets Skibidi Dib.
I mean, that's close enough.
Let me just Google.
But yeah,
do a quick Google.
So,
Scatman John.
Like, the songs became like this weird thing of Bill just did really, really well whenever they randomly showed up in the queue. So he reached sort of Twitch Plays Pokemon Helix Fossil level of godhood of if this song shows up, he will do real well. But he was just generally a very positive kind of guy, trying to spread positivity after hardships as a kid, and trying to sort of improve things through the medium that he found brought him an element of of goodness.
It's interesting that as well, because positivity sounds like part of a scat beat. Skibidi positivity.
The song is officially called Scatman in brackets ski ba 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 da bop.
Oh, amazing!
If you listen to that song, I think you will recognize parts of it.
Yeah.
But the songs that I wanted to recommend to everybody, we have Only You, which sounds like it should be in Mario Kart. We have Everybody Jam, which is just a good party beat if you wanna.
I really like Jam, so
I don't think I have heard that one, to be honest with you. So that'll be on my list.
It's about a party down in Louisiana. Come on, everybody jam. It's great. And the last one is one of my favourites, which is Sing Now. The lyrics to that one go, Sing now, whoa, the time is right now for everyone to be happy. So, it's just a perfect time to listen to Scatman John.
And then just end up down the rabbit hole of listening to Scatman John and then watching interviews.
It sounds like a joke.
And then play Tetris.
No, it
does sound like a joke, but it's legit good stuff.
I feel like there's like an element of Bob Ross to it when you're watching interviews with the guy. He's just a very chill guy who wants people to be happy.
I really appreciate how this just started out as a meme in Bill's stream.
100%.
You guys have actually done research and you've learned a lot about the guy and come to really appreciate his music. I think that's wonderful.
He's great. I would say I am a scat fan of Scatman.
It's just unfortunate.
It's just really unfortunate that scat has, another meaning, but we're talking about the mouth movement sound.
The mouth movement sound.
Let's just move on. Moving swiftly on, please.
Okay, so we've done that, and I think we're on to our last thing for today, which is some good news that's unrelated this week to anything coronavirus related. Unrelated to anything related to coronavirus.
Bit of redundancy there, never hurt anyone.
Yep. But the first koalas have been released back into the wild after Australian bushfires.
Hey! Oh my god, that happened! Oh my...
Well, that only finished in January.
It's not been that long.
What a year!
Yeah.
But the first were released by Sydney-based conservation organisation Science for Wildlife, and they released 12 of the animals back into their natural habitat in the Blue Mountains on the 25th and 27th of March.
That's amazing news.
So there you go, some good news from koalas.
I mean, the secondary good news from that is, obviously the way that the news presented it, I didn't realise that there was anything left to release them back into.
Well,
so I guess that means that Australia wasn't totally burnt to the ground, which is also good news.
Australia's had a rough year.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But I think that basically brings us to the end of the first episode. So thank you, Cam and Kinross, for joining me.
Thank you.
I'm going to link Cam all of the Scatman John. And he will be a fan as well.
I got some prep to do this afternoon, so that's probably going to be my backing track for it.
Oh, I can't wait for it to be used in
it's accidental
in
combat
the game.
music.
Yeah, I think that's everything. So we will see you next week. Stay safe, stay inside, and stay sane.
And stay
Thanks,
metal.
everybody. Take care.
Stay metal.
Stay
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.